This is Goku-san DBZ, and welcome back to a new top 10 list. This time I thought I'd go down memory lane and do a top 10 Dreamcast games that I have played the most over the years, or top 10 most played Dreamcast games of all time, based around how many hours consecutively throughout the years. Add together that played, these are the top 10. Rounding off, so with that said, coming at number 10 of Dreamcast games I've played the most over the years. Coming at number 10 is a little survival horror game called Blue Stinger. Now, if you don't know much, Blue Stinger isn't exactly your traditional survival horror game, if you will, unlike many others out there, and funny enough, to this day, it remains exclusively on the Dreamcast. It has never been re-released, which is kind of weird on Sega's part, though I believe the copyrights are held by Sega and another company. So that could be the main reason. But it's very campy, stupid, at times can definitely have a reasonable difficulty curve, though. Also, it's kind of crazy, some of the stuff you can get in the game that kind of makes you end up overpowered. And it's kind of weird how sometimes it will make you backtrack and stuff, but overall, still, have very positive experiences over the years with Blue Stinger. It's just one of those I consider definitively a cult classic survival horror game of the late 90s, early 2000s. And personally, I still love the game. I get why a lot of people don't talk about it. It's not exactly your stereotypical horror game. And it's definitely not, well, like many others in its genre. But with that said, I do recommend actually more people give this game a shot. If you're interested in seeing a full in-depth video on this game, I recommend checking out a little bit over an hour video that was done a little while back by NitroRad, which I recommend checking out as he's done some pretty good retrospectives in the past on specific survival horror games besides platformers. But with that said, coming in at number 9 of ones that I've soaked a lot of time into over the years, at number 9 is Dead or Alive 2. This game specifically because at the time, friends that I had, only one person other than myself that I knew ever owned the Dreamcast, weirdly enough, but we would spend endless amounts of time back in the early 2000s playing this game nonstop throughout many, many years. For a good 2 or 3 years, we played this game quite a bit. It was like our default fighting game we would play. Because to me, it was the gold standard at the time of 3D fighters. Nothing else came close to Dead or Alive 2 on the Dreamcast. To this day, I still like it even more than the PS2 improved Dead or Alive 2 Hardcore. I still prefer this version of the game personally. Next, coming in at number 8, a game that I'm sure a lot of people would wonder why is Mortal Kombat Gold. It's because I just love the stupid over-the-top cheesiness of the game with the especially clips and stuff you give the characters, especially characters like Jarrett Sinning and many others. I actually really love it for the cheese and stupid bad dialogue. Admittedly, that's one of my biggest guilty pleasures as a longtime fan of B-rated horror films like stuff like Attack the Killer Tomatoes, Colossal Pastor in more recent years. If you don't know what that is, look it up. Colossal Pastor is pretty hilarious. Probably one of my personal favorite YouTubers that focuses on B-rated horror films. The interesting video on it. His name is Decker Shadows. But with that said, seriously, this is a great game. You need to give a shot. It's the definitive way to play MK4 as it has 5 additional characters, additional stages, and overall it performs better as a whole. And better quality cutscenes for what you could do cutscene wise with this game anyways. Still, it's a definite guilty pleasure I've put well over 100 hours into. And don't ask me why. Coming at number 7, arguably partially for the music, it's one of the reasons I love it so much. But for me, at number 7 of games I've spent way more time than I should have, Jet Grind Radio. Not quite as much as Jet Set Radio Future, but still, I soaked in probably somewhere between, over the years, I've probably put in close to 200 hours in the Check Run Radio. It is that enjoyable and that fun as I've gone back through, I've beat it beginning to end probably 9 times over the years. That's how fun this game is, and I try at least every other year or something, I try at least do one full playthrough of the game just to really get to go back and enjoy the nostalgia and the music as well is one of the big parts for me with this game. Coming in at number 6, a game that is fun, classic arcade style game. One of the big reasons I like this game so much is because it's the definitive way, in my opinion, to play the original classic, and you can't beat the soundtrack, which is nothing but a bunch of classics from, of course, The Offspring. And you can't go wrong with some great late 90s pop punk like The Offspring. With that said, as a longtime fan of the band, and this is arguably one of, I think, the best transition arcade to console games, and it performs incredibly well, still runs a rock solid 60 frames per second. Honestly, it's a blast. This many years, 20 plus years later, and I still occasionally find myself coming back and playing this game just out of pure enjoyment of how over the top crazy this game can get at times. Coming in at number 5, you see, well, technically this is 2, but yeah. For me, you hear the music in the background playing from at number 5 of games that I have played quite a bit over the years. Easily. With that said, coming in number 5, it's Marvel vs. Capcom 1. It is a superb, great game that I highly recommend, and this is the definitive way to play it. If you don't have the arcade machine or access, the Dreamcast is the best way to play the game, as it is definitely, you do not want to play the PS1 though. It does have some unique features on the PS1 version of the game, but as a whole, for me, the Dreamcast version of Marvel vs. Capcom 1 remains the best way to play this game to this day, and all the crazy unlockable characters like Red Venom or Lilith, as well as like Shadow Lady, Gold War Machine, and many others that could break the game. Golden War Machine and Red Venom being the two biggies. And with that said, still remains fun, and still, in my opinion, Onslaught remains one of the greatest fighting game bosses of all time. And the soundtrack is S tier. With that said, you can't go wrong, and yeah, I've probably soaked in over the years, I don't know, well over 200 plus, to upwards of maybe like 250 plus hours in this game, which is crazy. Coming in at number 4, arguably my favorite survival horror game on the Sega Dreamcast, and I've beat this beginning to end like 8 or 9 times, and this can be, if you take your time, like you could spend arguably easily probably 10, 12 hours on the game if you want to just take your time and enjoy and soak in the atmosphere and everything. So yeah, over the years, I'm not even sure how many hours I've actually soaked into this. But given how much time I take per playthrough and how many playthroughs, yeah, it's easy to say I've soaked in well over 100 some hours into this game easily. Plus, it's not even including playing the PS2 versions, but of Dreamcast still remains one of my favorite experiences to this day on the console. Coming at number 3 is probably a surprise for a lot of people, but I really enjoy the 4-player, like multi player like local play mode and stuff. To me, this is the best vehicular combat game of all time. Personal opinion only, but for me, Vigilant, the Second Offense, is the third game I've played the most, arguably, of all time. I have probably put in easily somewhere between 200 and 300 hours into Vigilant, the Second Offense throughout the years. This game is a lot of fun, especially with friends, and the ability to be able to get a hovercraft thing to make your vehicles fly is a lot of fun. Also, the desert stage where a big asteroid hits and blows up a drive-in theater. And if you blow up the asteroid, a giant, humongous, like 50, 60-foot ant pops out, shooting green lasers at you. It's hilarious, over the top, and nuts, and I love it for it. But with that said, yeah, I actually like this more than Twisted Metal. Maybe it's blasphemy, but whatever. And it is a great fun experience. If you're looking for a fun, like, 4-player game on the Dreamcast, this is, in my opinion, one of the best choices you can make. And the music's not half bad either. Coming at number 2 is, of course, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. You cannot go wrong with this game, no matter what. And for me, I will never not love this. But with that said, yeah, I've beat this game between that and playing against friends and stuff, plus in the arcade, as I've probably played at least 500 games back in the arcade of this. And luckily, my win ratio was about 95% on the arcade, only because most people did not own a Dreamcast or this at home to practice all the time, so admittedly I had an unfair advantage on the game. But I would hate to come across Japanese players on this game, or people like Justin Wong. I would be destroyed in an instant. But with that said, yeah, I have, throughout the years, who knows how many hours I've put into this game throughout the years. It's absurd and crazy. But it's fun, over-the-top cheese, and I do enjoy trying to use different character combinations for triple hyper combos and seeing which I can get the longest running amount of hits for a combo. One of probably the best I ever did was a combination of Iron Man, War Machine, and Cable. As on some characters I got easily probably around 300 hit combos off of the triple. But with that said, coming at number 1, arguably I've put the most time throughout the years into, and is my favorite Dreamcast game of all time. Of course, that is also my favorite 3D fighter of all time, the original classic Soul Calibur, which is still remains to this day, at least a physical, remains exclusive to the original, to the classic Dreamcast. And to me, this game will always remain my favorite in the Soul series, and always will. Great game, and I've invested well over 300 hours into this game throughout the years. With that said, stay safe, and I'll see y'all again soon. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.